500,000 years after the Galactic Council annihilated Earth, the charred skull of the planet was still scorched black from oceans of magma that boiled away the seas. Below the frozen wastes of the Arctic, a concealed cryostasis complex hummed to life. Raymond Green opened his eyes. The cryopod hissed open. Green stumbled out onto unsteady legs. His muscles were wasted from 500,000 years of disuse. His bones felt brittle like glass. He coughed up bloody cryofluid. Where was he? Who was he? Fractured memories surfaced. The desperate war against the Prilorians, humanity refusing to be enslaved, the unimaginable power of the Galactic Council siding with the cruel aliens. As he lurched through the dim cryobunker, the few lights still powered flickered weakly. The place was a tomb. Rows of his fellow humans lay dead in their pods, killed by the ravages of deep time. He was alone. The last human? A recorded message crackled through the speakers, the final words of Earth's last president. If Green was hearing this, then the worst had come to pass. The Galactic Council had judged humanity as a lesser species, mere savages who dared to defy their Prilorian masters. Green sank to his knees as he watched archived footage of the Council's dreadnoughts cracking Earth open like an egg. All of human history and culture reduced to ash, a cruel example to keep the galaxy's other races in line. For long minutes Green knelt in the ashes of his homeworld, of his species. When he finally stood, his eyes burned with purpose. He was humanity's last hope. He would rebuild. He would bide his time. And when the moment was right, when humanity had regained its strength, the Galactic Council would learn the depths of its mistake. The Prilorians would pay for their cruelty. Humanity would have its revenge against the aliens who had wronged them. Green and his people would make the Prilorians regret destroying Earth for the rest of time. The fight was only beginning. Green searched through the bunker's damaged but still functional databases, desperate to find answers. As the computer slowly booted up, old distress calls and reports began to play. He learned that in the war's final days, the Prilorians had Earth surrounded. The scaly aliens' warships hung over humanity's homeworld like vultures circling a carcass. A video recording of Ymir, the Prilorian leader, crackled to life on the screen. Ymir's reptilian eyes glittered with malice as he spoke. "People of Earth, your resistance is futile. Surrender the Forge of Prometheus to us immediately, or watch your planet burn. You have one rotation to comply." Green's hands clenched into fists as he watched Earth's president defiantly refuse Ymir's demands. The Forge of Prometheus was an ancient alien device that human scientists had reverse-engineered, using its secrets to rapidly advance Earth's technology in mere decades. Green knew that if the Prilorians got their claws on it, they would use the Forge's power to conquer and enslave the entire galaxy. Earth could never allow that to happen. Humanity made its final stand. The logs showed that Earth lured the bulk of the Prilorian armada to the solar system with the Forge as bait. Then, in a desperate sacrificial move, Earth's forces activated a doomsday weapon, destabilizing the planet's core. Green watched in stunned horror as his homeworld exploded into chunks of molten rock, destroying itself and taking most of the Prilorian fleet with it. A final message played from the human fleet commander. Her face was bloodied but defiant. "To any survivors, go dark. Hide yourselves among the stars. Bide your time, rebuild in secret, and when the moment is right, strike back against the Prilorians and their Galactic Council lapdogs. They will pay for what they've done today. Humanity will rise again stronger than ever. The Forge is out there, find it, it's the key to everything." Green scoured the database, hunting for the Forge's location. There, humanity's most powerful artifact had been secretly smuggled away on an unmarked ship just before the doomsday weapon was triggered. The file said it was sent through an experimental wormhole to somewhere on the galaxy's uncharted fringes. As Green downloaded the data, a grim smile crossed his face. He would find the Forge no matter how long it took. He would use it to raise humanity from the ashes, unlock its full potential, and bring furious vengeance crashing down on the Prilorians and Galactic Council. The alien scum would soon learn to fear the wrath of Earth's last son. Green wiped the cryo-fluid from his face and limped over to the cryo-bunker's control room. The computers were ancient, but a few displays still flickered to life as he booted them up. He activated the bunker's long-range scanners, hoping against hope to find other signs of human life out there in the cold void of space. At first there was nothing, just the endless black of the lifeless solar system. But then a handful of faint energy signatures popped up on the display. Incredibly, impossibly, they were coming from old human military outposts scattered across the solar system's moons and asteroids. Green zoomed in on the signatures. They were weak, barely detectable, but they were there. He wasn't alone after all. Other humans were still alive out there, slumbering in hidden cryo-bunkers just like his. With shaking hands, Green opened a channel on an encrypted frequency known only to the human resistance. Calling any survivors of the Prilorian genocide. This is Captain Raymond Green, broadcasting from Earth Cryobunker Alpha. Please respond. For a moment there was only static. Green held his breath. Then a voice crackled through the speakers, filled with disbelief and cautious hope. Captain Green, is that really you? We thought everyone on Earth was dead. Not dead. Just biding my time, waiting for the right moment. Listen, we need to consolidate our forces. There's a hidden fleet of prototype warships beneath the hydrocarbon oceans of Titan. Rendezvous there immediately. We're going to need every ship and every soldier if we're going to strike back against the Prilorians. Green began gathering the supplies he would need for the journey to Titan. Rations, oxygen recyclers, survival gear. As he was pulling an old pressure suit from storage, an alert blared through the cryobunker. The long-range scanners had picked up an energy surge near Earth's remains. Green pulled up the readings and swore under his breath. A Prilorian scout ship had just warped into the solar system. Somehow the Prilorians must have detected the power spike from the cryobunker activating. They were coming to investigate, to ensure their genocide was complete. Green knew that if they found him here, if they captured him, the human resistance would be finished before it even began. He raced to the cryobunker's armory, his wasted muscles protesting with every step. The armory had been picked clean by the doomed soldiers who had made their last stand here, but a few precious treasures remained. Green pulled a salvaged Prilorian plasma rifle and a battered suit of power armor from the racks. He slotted an ammo core into the rifle's feed and shrugged into the armor. The HUD flickered to life as the suit's systems synced with his neural implant. Green stepped into the cryobunker's airlock, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. If he couldn't fight his way past the Prilorian scouts, humanity's last hope would be snuffed out. The outer doors hissed open, and Green stepped out onto the frozen surface of what had once been the Arctic. He raised his rifle, ready for anything. "I will make this right," he whispered to the ghosts of the fallen. "Humanity will rise again, and the Prilorians will pay for what they've done." Green crouched behind a frozen outcropping, his breath misting in the frigid air. The Prilorian scout ship loomed ahead, its sleek black hull stark against the ice. He checked his rifle's ammo readout. 30 rounds of armor-piercing plasma. More than enough. 2 scouts emerged from the ship, their reptilian forms encased in angular exosuits. They scanned the area with handheld devices, hissing to each other in their sibilant tongue. Green's translator implant spat out a garbled approximation. "No life signs. The primates are extinct." Green's finger tightened on the trigger. He sighted down the rifle's scope, aiming for the lead scout's unarmored head. A squeeze of the trigger and the alien's skull vaporized in a spray of superheated gore. Before the second scout could react, Green was moving, his power armor whirring as he sprinted from cover. Plasma bolts sizzled past him as the remaining Prilorian opened fire. Green jinked and dodged, his enhanced reflexes making the alien's shots look like child's play. He closed the distance in seconds, slamming into the scout like a freight train. They tumbled to the ice in a tangle of limbs. Green ended up on top, his armored knee pressed into the Prilorian's neck. The alien thrashed and clawed at him, but Green's armor held. He jammed his rifle under the creature's chin. "How many more of you are there?" Green growled. "What are your kind's plans for the galaxy? The Prilorian scout hissed defiantly. "Foolish primate, in the eon since your world burned, the Prilorian Empire has risen to rule the stars. All lesser species bow before us. Humanity's time is long past." Green's face hardened. He dug the rifle barrel harder into the alien's scales. "Answer me, or I start removing appendages." Something in his voice must have conveyed his utter seriousness. The Prilorian struggles ceased. "You are the last human. Your species is a blight, a mistake. But there are others out there in the dark places who still cling to hope, rebels and dissidents who dream of overthrowing Prilorian rule. They think your kind was special, that your stubbornness and tenacity were the key to our defeat all those millennia ago." The alien made a choking sound that might have been a laugh. "Pathetic fools. Nothing can stop the Empire, certainly not one lone human relic." Green's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." He knocked the Prilorian out with a swift blow to the head, then rose to his feet. He had to get to Titan, to recover those prototype ships before the Prilorians found them. Humanity needed allies if they were to have any hope of payback. Green dragged the unconscious Prilorian into the cryo-bunker's airlock, sealing the outer doors behind him. Let the alien freeze. It was more than his kind had afforded those they butchered. Minutes later, Green was strapping himself into the cockpit of his hidden ship. The small craft had been state-of-the-art when he'd gone into cryo, built for stealth and long-endurance missions. With luck, its systems were still functional. He ran through the pre-flight checks with the ease of long practice, his hands dancing over the controls. Main power, online. Stealth systems, engaged. Shields and weapons, armed and operational. He was go for launch. Green angled the ship up and away from Earth's tortured husk. As he accelerated toward the stars, he opened a channel to the other cryopods scattered across the system. "This is Captain Raymond Green to any human survivors. Rendezvous on Titan. I repeat, rendezvous on Titan. We're going to need every soldier if we're going to take the fight back to the Prilorians." Silence answered him, but Green refused to let despair take hold. He had to believe there were others out there. He couldn't be the only one. As he prepared to plot a course to Titan, a ping sounded from the comms panel. An incoming message on a frequency unused for 500,000 years. Green frowned and routed it to the cockpit speakers. The transmission was garbled with static and interference, but a few words jumped out at him. "Forge, Prometheus, coordinates." A set of spatial coordinates followed, a location deep in the uncharted void beyond known space. Green felt a flicker of excitement kindle in his chest. The Forge of Prometheus, the key to humanity's ascension and the Prilorians' defeat. If he could recover the artifact. Green input the coordinates and watched as the nav computer calculated a route. "Looks like we've got a new mission," he murmured to himself. He leaned back in the acceleration chair and closed his eyes as the ship hurtled towards its destination. There was a long road ahead, but for the first time in millennia, humanity had a chance to set things right. The galaxy wouldn't know what hit it. Green's ship sliced through the dense hydrocarbon fog shrouding Titan's surface, sensors straining for any sign of the hidden human base allegedly concealed beneath the moon's chemical oceans. The faint power signatures he'd picked up from Earth had originated here. If there were truly other survivors, this is where he would find them. He checked his rifle and armor again, unwilling to be caught unprepared. The Prilorians knew he was out here now. They would be hunting him. He had to be ready. A flicker of movement on the ship's scanner drew his eye. There, a cluster of structures jutting from a plateau overlooking a vast methane sea. Their angular profiles were unmistakably human in design, a far cry from the organic curves of Prilorian architecture. Green brought his ship in low, angling for what looked like a hidden hangar bay carved into the cliff face. As he approached, a battered defense turret swiveled to track him. His comm crackled. "Unknown vessel. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." Green broadcast his credentials. "Captain Raymond Green, Earth Defense Force. I'm here to join the resistance." A pause. Then the hangar doors rumbled open, a clear invitation. Green brought his ship in for a landing. A welcoming party was waiting for him. A dozen men and women in mismatched pressure suits, armed with an eclectic mix of human and scavenged Prilorian weaponry. Green popped his cockpit and climbed out, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. One of the figures, a woman with captain's bars on her shoulder, stepped forward. "Captain Green, we thought we were the only ones left. How did you find us?" "Picked up your power signatures from Earth. Wasn't easy." The woman removed her helmet, revealing a battle-scarred face framed by graying hair. Her eyes were hard, but there was a glimmer of hope in them now. "I'm Captain Jenna Novak, acting commander of the Titan base. We're all that's left of the Earth Defense Force out here." She gestured to the ragtag group behind her. "We've been hiding out, gathering intel on the Prilorians, waiting for our moment to strike. But we're a skeleton crew. We need all the help we can get." Green nodded grimly. "You've got it, but that's not the only reason I'm here." He told them about the message, about the Forge of Prometheus, and the coordinates leading to uncharted space. Novak's eyes widened. "The Forge? But that's just a legend, a story they told us in the academy to keep morale up." A new voice chimed in. "I assure you, Captain, it's quite real." A woman emerged from the crowd, her pressure suit emblazoned with the crest of the Science Division. She had keen, intelligent eyes and moved with the confidence of someone used to being the smartest one in the room. "Dr. Eliza Novak, Head of Weapons Research and Development," she introduced herself. "The Forge of Prometheus was one of our most closely guarded secrets, an alien device of immense power, capable of reshaping matter and energy on a fundamental level. I was part of the team studying it before the fall." She turned to Green, her expression intense. "If your message is true, if the Forge really is out there, it could be the key to everything. With that kind of power at our disposal, we might actually stand a chance against the Prilorians." Captain Novak looked skeptical. "It's a hell of a long shot, and we'd be risking everything on a wild goose chase into uncharted space." Green met her gaze unflinchingly. "From where I'm standing, it's the only shot we've got. The Prilorians burned our world. It's time we took the fight to them. This is our chance to hit them where they live, to show them that humanity won't go quietly into the night." Novak held his stare for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, Green, we'll play it your way, but I'm coming with you. This is too important to leave to chance, and you'll need my people to back you up." Green clasped her arm, sealing the deal. "Wouldn't have it any other way, Captain. We leave as soon as your team is ready. Every second counts." As the Titan base erupted into a flurry of activity, engineers and soldiers scrambling to prep for departure, Green allowed himself a small, grim smile. The Prilorians had no idea what was coming for them. The journey to the uncharted world was fraught with peril. The small fleet of human ships, cobbled together from Titan's mothballed reserves, had to navigate through treacherous asteroid fields and ionized nebulae, running dark to avoid the ever-watchful eyes of Prilorian patrols. Green and Captain Novak spent long hours hunched over star charts and sensor readouts, trying to plot the safest course. Dr. Novak buried herself in the ship's labs, working feverishly to upgrade their weapons and defenses with every scrap of alien tech she could scrounge. But even with all their precautions, skirmishes with Prilorian scout ships were inevitable. The enemy vessels seemed to melt out of the void, plasma cannons blazing as they bore down on the human fleet. Green found himself in the thick of the fighting, his stolen Prilorian rifle spitting superheated death as he led boarding parties to neutralize the enemy crews. The battles were brutal and bloody, fought in the cramped confines of airless corridors and smoke-choked engine bays. Green lost count of the number of times his armor deflected a shot that would have been fatal, or how many Prilorian throats he crushed with his bare hands. But the humans gave as good as they got, fury and desperation lending them strength. Dr. Novak's jury-rigged ship-to-ship missiles proved devastatingly effective, burning through Prilorian shields like tissue paper, and Captain Novak's pilots flew like madmen, luring pursuers into gravity wells and asteroid belts with daring feints and suicidal dives. Slowly, Painfully, they clawed their way across the stars, leaving a trail of broken Prilorian ships in their wake. Until at last, battered and bloodied but unbroken, they reached their destination. The uncharted world was a blasted hellscape, its surface scoured by solar radiation and racked by tectonic upheaval. But scans quickly located the sprawling ruins of an ancient alien city, half buried in the shifting sands of the planet's equatorial band. As Green and Dr. Novak led the landing parties down to the surface, picking their way through the crumbling architectures of a long-dead civilization, the weight of their mission settled on Green's shoulders like a physical thing. Somewhere in this dead city lay the key to humanity's future, the Forge of Prometheus, the ancient device that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy and give humanity a fighting chance against its oppressors. If they could find it, if it even existed at all. Green pushed the doubts aside. He had to believe, he had to hope. Without hope, they had nothing. They searched for days, combing through the ruins as Prilorian ships gathered in orbit like carrion birds. Green could feel the noose tightening around them. It was only a matter of time before the enemy made their move. Just as he was beginning to despair, Dr. Novak cracked the code. A cryptic set of symbols, repeated throughout the city center, revealed the location of a heavily shielded vault deep beneath the planet's surface. Getting inside was a nightmare. The automated defenses, designed by the long-vanished builders to keep their secrets safe from any and all intruders, were ancient but far from defunct. Walls of plasma fire and gravitational distortions tore through the human strike teams, burning and crushing and flinging them aside like ragdolls. But they pushed forward inch by bloody inch, Green and Captain Novak leading the charge. Dr. Novak worked frantically to hack the alien systems, turning the vault's own defenses against it. Until finally, battered and depleted but victorious, they breached the vault's inner sanctum. And there it was, the Forge of Prometheus, an alien device the size of a small shuttle, all sleek lines and thrumming power, hovering in a corona of crackling energy at the center of the chamber. Green approached it reverently, hardly daring to believe they had succeeded. Dr. Novak was already moving, connecting her instruments to the device's control interfaces, her fingers flying over the keys. "Astonishing," she breathed. "The sheer power output, it's beyond anything I've ever seen. With this, we could—" She never got a chance to finish, because at that moment all hell broke loose. The Prilorians had found them. Later, Green would marvel at the sheer arrogance of it, that Ymir himself, the Butcher of Earth, had come for them personally, that the Prilorian warlord was so confident in his victory he wanted to be the one to crush humanity's last gasp with his own hands. But in the moment, there was no time for such thoughts. There was only the battle, sudden and vicious and all-consuming. The Prilorians crashed into the vault like a tidal wave, all gnashing teeth and slashing claws and searing plasma. Ymir was at their head, a towering reptilian nightmare in black armor, his eyes alight with cruel intelligence as he sought out Green across the melee. Green met him head-on, a wordless roar tearing from his throat as he charged the alien warlord. They crashed together in a whirlwind of blades and fists and hate, Green's rifle locked against Ymir's crackling energy glaive. Around them the battle raged. Captain Novak and her soldiers fought like lions, making the Prilorians pay for every inch of ground in blood. But they were outnumbered and outgunned, and the aliens just kept coming. Dr. Novak screamed at them over the din, her voice raw with desperation. "Hold them off, I almost have it." Green hardly heard her. His world had narrowed to the monster before him, to the ancient enemy he had sworn to destroy. He battered at Ymir's defenses, ignoring the wounds that slipped through his own guard, the charred flesh and oozing blood. Pain was distant, unimportant. All that mattered was victory. But Ymir was strong, so monstrously strong. His blows rattled Green to the bone, drove him back step by step. Green felt his strength flagging, his vision blurring. He was going to lose. Humanity was going to lose. Dimly through the fog of battle, he heard Dr. Novak's triumphant shout, "I've got it, I've got—" And then the world went white. A wall of force, pure and terrible, exploded outward from the forge. It ripped through the chamber like the hand of an angry god, shattering stone and melting metal. Prilorians and humans alike were blown off their feet, flung aside like leaves in a hurricane. Green felt himself lifted, tossed, battered. Something heavy slammed into him and the world went dark. When he came to, ears ringing and head pounding, the vault was a smoking ruin. The Prilorians were gone, reduced to ash and molten slag. Nothing could have survived that maelstrom of unleashed energy. Nothing, except for the battered knot of human survivors slowly picking themselves up off the blasted floor. Green hauled himself to his feet, every nerve raw and screaming. His armor hung off him in tatters, his rifle fused into slag. But he was alive. Against all odds, he was alive. He stumbled to the center of the chamber, to the scorched crater where the forge had been. It was gone, torn apart by the forces it had unleashed. Whatever the device had been, whatever power it had held, was lost now, sacrificed in that final, cataclysmic burst. Dr. Novak lay crumpled nearby, her body broken and burned, but still somehow impossibly, clinging to life. Green knelt beside her, cradling her head gently. "You did it," he rasped. "You saved us." She smiled through cracked and bleeding lips. "Not just us, everyone. I used the forge, it sent a message back and warned the past, gave them a chance to be ready for the Prilorians, to stop all this before it ever happens." Green's heart clenched. The message, the one that had led him here to this moment. "What you did, it was impossible." "Impossible is what we do," she whispered. Her eyes fluttered closed. "It's up to you now, Green. You have to lead them. You have to finish the fight." And with a final rattling breath, Dr. Eliza Novak, the woman who had saved the future, slipped away. Green bowed his head, grief and gratitude warring in his chest. Then he stood facing the other survivors, his people now, his responsibility. "You heard her," he said, his voice raw but strong. "The fight isn't over. The Prilorians are still out there, and as long as they are, humanity will never be safe. We have to take the battle to them. We have to find the resistance, wherever they are, and join our strength to theirs. We have to burn the Prilorian Empire down, once and for all." He looked around at their battered, bloodied faces, seeing the same determination that burned in his own heart reflected back at him. "I know it seems impossible, but impossible is what we do. It's who we are. We're human. We don't know how to quit, and we will never, ever stop fighting." A ragged cheer went up from the survivors, a defiant roar that echoed through the ruined vault. Green nodded, a grim smile touching his lips. "All right then, let's get to work. We've got a galaxy to save." And with that, the last remnants of humanity gathered their wounded, salvaged what they could from the wreckage, and marched out to face their destiny. The battle had been lost, but the war and the future were still theirs to win. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.